MK from Motorgraph World channel. Today, Genesis brand has launched all new G90. The G90 model is the most luxurious car from the Korean manufacturer and also the most expensive model manufactured by the Genesis brand. So this all new G90 could be the new S-Class. In this segment, let's find out. The front end has a relatively similar design follow-up from the previous generation, but it has a better details and better high technologies. So the first impression about this new LED headlamp, it is the slimmest headlights that Genesis brand ever produced, and there are 200 micro LED lenses inside of these two lines. During the daytime, it works as the DRL, and it also works as the turn signal and also for the low beam and high beam. So all functions are integrated into these small lens arrays. The new textured grille still has the same G-matrix design, but inside of the first layer there's another second layer just beneath this front grille, so that it has the double layered G-matrix patterns covering this super large crest grille. But the radar system is not located in the center, but instead there are two in this lower fascia, but in fact that one is the real radar and this one is fake for the moment. In the second half of this year, Genesis will introduce the level 3 car with additional LiDAR sensors somewhere here and there on this big crest grille. And another big change in terms of the styling is that this new G90 has the clamshell hood, which is basically an aluminum and gives you very slick line. There's no parting line anywhere on top of this hood, so it gives you a very clean, very luxurious feel at the same time. Also, there is a gear shape pattern on this new Genesis logo, just like a high luxury watches. So the basic wheel choice is 19 inches, and you can have upgrade for this 20-inch rims, which comes in two different designs. The basic tire is Michelin Primus all-season tire, 245 for the front and 275 for the rear. And also another characteristic of this new G90 is this area. The wheel arch is surrounded by this bold outline. The hood line is very low and the wheel arch is super big, and there is a very small amount of the gap here, so which gives you a very young and sporty look for the front end. The door handle now comes fully electric. When the car is driving, this whole door grip goes into the body panel. Also, this grip has the automatic easy closing function, so you just click here and it closes. The Genesis brand is really doing their best to keep their two-line concept. You have a two LED stripes crossing across this boot lid, and the lighting area is really slim. They are trying to show off their new LED technology, and the turn signal is integrated into this very slim another second light, and the tail light uses this large amount of the surface, and the light, it gives you a very unique and distinctive look from the behind. The entire graphics is quite very similar to Mercedes CLS. 4 caddy bags could be stored in this luggage space, and then still you have additional amount of the boot. We have additional carrier here, but I think you can load about almost 6 carriers of this size into this boot without any problem. And there is a really big jump from the previous generation. Everything that you can touch in this car is covered with really good, fine material. The new steering wheel design is a little bit shocking because it changes everything. The airbag horn cover is independently located in the center of the steering wheel, and those control buttons on the left and the right, it looks like there are 3 islands floating on this steering spoke. I'm really happy to see this new pillars, which is located in between these 2 big displays. It gives you a very unique look. Some may think that this one is quite familiar in this Lexus LS series, but I can tell you that definitely this is G90's own unique styling touch. One interesting about this interior is that the center of the steering wheel is not aligned to the center of this digital cluster. Display is slightly located to your left side. I'm not quite sure about this new temperature control button design, but Genesis put this same design on a GV60, the fully electric version. Other than that, all the materials are finished with really fine color and design. But I really need to tell you about this. Since the cushion of the front seat is really fat, the hip point itself is quite high. This happens exactly the same for the second row seat. Sitting high in this luxury car means that you have better vision toward the outside, but at the same time your body can be shaken whenever the car has its pitching or rolling or other the up and down bouncing. So hopefully for the next generation of this car, they need to work on the little bit lower hip point for the front row and the second row as well. So the second row seat is very special space in this car. This car is the normal wheelbase version, and there is another longer wheelbase version, the full limo size version, which is 19 centimeters longer than this car. With this basic wheelbase model, still you have electric adjustable back seat. In the center armrest, there is the whole display for the control module. You can have an access to the seat adjustment, the massage program, the infotainment system control, or even for the sun blind opening and closing control. It's not openable. Still, you can close the blind, or you can leave it open. And there are additional 23 speaker system from the Bang & Olufsen, and also, as you can find here and here, very soft materials for the pillow, and the leg support also has the same materials. And inside of this armrest in the center, there is a UVC sterilizer installed as a standard option, so you can put your gloves or you can put your smartphone, whatever you need to sterilize, and it kills 99.9% of the germs or bacteria. The overall sitting comfort is very similar to the BMW 7 Series, because the Mercedes S-Class has the lower hip point and the better reclining angle. The 7 Series has very similar sitting position with this new G90. The length of this car is more than 5.2 meters. If you add up the rear wheel steering option, which costs about 1.5 million Korean won in Korea, you will have very smaller turning radius. So I'm gonna make a U-turn here. Okay, so wow. We barely did not use the last lane when you make a U-turn. Less than 2.5 lane was needed for U-turn. When the car is fully stopped, the steering angle does not change, but as you build up the speed, you can see that your rear wheel is acting according to the different angle, but I should not do this here. This 3.5 twin turbocharged V6 engine is really smooth like butter. As you build up the low RPM to mid-range RPM, always it gives you a very gentle and quite enormous amount of the torque. Sometimes it gives you a little bit shock when it changes the gear, but under the very gentle use of the throttle, you will not be able to notice the gearbox is working. There's no longer V8 engine available in this new G90, which is very sad news, but instead the basic powertrain is 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6, which was used in other model range like a GV80 or G80. Considering its size and the total weight of this car, 380 horse, it's just an adequate power to this new chassis. It goes always gentle and moves like a real luxury car, so it never hassles. Even in the sport mode, the downshift is not that quick. Still, you can feel that this car is trying to maintain the passenger's comfortness even under the sport mode. So there are basic 3 different drive modes from Eco, Comfort and Sport. But once you hold this drive mode button, long key, then you can have access to go into the Chauffeur mode. My preference is this Chauffeur mode because the front suspension and the rear suspension works a slightly different way. In this Chauffeur mode, front suspension has a little bit more stroke and movement, while the rear suspension really tries to maintain its balanced and it's a stable position. So you can feel the road through the front axle. In the meantime, the rear axle stays really stable and it does not have too much variance on its road going height. So the wheelbase will move like planted on the rear wheel and more flexible on the front axle. With that maneuver, it tries to give the maximum comfort for the rear seat passengers, the VVIPs. The overall handling character is very easy to ride. I can tell you that there is a quite good sense of the communication between the steering and the road surface. I'm not quite sure this is the ideal for this kind of a luxurious, large segment car, but still, as Genesis insists, this car has the character of the athletic dynamic. It has lots of rollings and lots of pitchings, but still, no matter how the car is positioned or angled, still you can feel the entire 4 different tires, how they are making the grip. And this is really good thing from my side, but some people may not like this. Because some people may expect drive comfort of like floating over the road. You still have the connection. You can feel the road. Even in the most comfort suspension setup, you can feel it. It's not the most soft suspension setup in the segment. When I compare this car against the 7 Series or S-Class, the overall ride comfort stays somewhere between the 7 Series and S-Class, but it's more close to the BMW 7 Series. Yes, still S-Class gives you the maximum comfort in this segment. So this is the highlight of this G90. We are driving in a short wheelbase version, which is the standard version, and still it has increased its wheelbase by 15 millimeters from its previous generations. As far as I remember, when I take the back seat in the G90, the former generation, in this relaxed mode, I could touch the back end of the front seat. But now, since it has a longer wheelbase and longer chassis, it is no longer possible to touch the seat back. My height is 176 centimeters, and it gives quite enough leg room for my height. And still, the hip point of the rear seat still stays a little bit high, which I wish I could change a little bit more for the next generation, because the biggest change between this G90 and the Mercedes S-Class, it has been always the comfortness from the rear seat sitting position. So S-Class, it sits a little bit lower and it feels like more planted, and you feel more stable on a seat. But still, this G90 rear seat feels like you're sitting on top of something. And even though you move to the relax mode or the rest mode, when the car makes its movement, the bounce and the pitching, you can easily feel more of the car's total maneuver and the movement. Other than that, every materials that the Genesis put in this car is marvelous. the leathers, the wood, the soft trims, and look at those switches. Everything is covered with the matte chrome finish. The speaker covers by the Bang & Olufsen. It covers everywhere in the cabin, and even this the grip handle. Everything feels very luxurious. And what I really like about this car is the new center display, which is quite very large, and you can have access to every function: the air climate control, the audio system control, the infotainment system, and you can even close the door with just a touch of a button. I'm listening to the music from the FM. Even this source was the FM radio. Each musical instrument stays in different position. The violin sound comes from there, and the cello comes from there, and it's a virtual thing. The music source does not have that information, but this speaker system, it kind of feels like they separate each musical instrument to be heard like they are all located in slightly different positions. I strongly recommend this Boston Symphony Hall for the classic music. The rest mode is relatively flat,